This is a $1 LEGO Star Wars clone base. And this is a $1,000 LEGO Star Wars clone base. And in this video, I'm going to be building 4 different clone bases starting off at $1, $10, $100, and working our way all the way up to $1,000 at the end of this video. So without further ado, let's get right on into this video. Starting off with our $1 clone base, we have to be very frugal with the decisions that we make and the pieces that we choose to use. After getting a quick base and adding on the top layer, I'm ready to finish up this clone base. Coming in at $1, it's not very big and can't really provide too much protection to clones, but I think it has an overall good design and looks pretty good. Now putting a clone beside it can't really defend against the droids though. As we move over to our $10 clone base, we have a lot more freedom when it comes to our budget for this base, so I was able to put in some different details. However, I still had to sacrifice certain details to stay frugal and be able to make this base as best as possible. After I finished up the exterior, I worked on getting a little bit of an interior and then building up the exterior and adding in some different foliage. It was at this moment that I realized that I was just building a cheap knockoff of the Endor bunker, but I think it's going to work well for the base that I have in mind. And here is the $10 clone base, a small Republic outpost set up in the outskirts of Andor. And I think it turned out pretty good for 10 bucks. This definitely shows that you are able to make something that is, passable as a pretty good mock for just $10. The clone here is what takes up most of that budget, and he is actually ready to defend against the droids. Unlike the $1 clone base, he is able to put up a pretty good fight and hold off the droids from taking down this clone base. Now moving on to the $100 clone base, I want to take a little bit of a different approach, and I'm going to be building the interior of the Venator, more specifically the hangar bay. Now, it may not be the first thing that comes to mind when you think about a clone base. When you think about it, a Venator kind of is just a mobile clone base, so I'm going to count it for this video because it is my video. Not much to really do here other than tile off the whole floor. Unfortunately, I can't do like big different walls and stuff, so I'm going to try and keep it nice and tiled and then add in some different minifigs. Once I got it all in, I think it turned out pretty good. I did spend quite a bit of the budget on the minifigs here, but I think it turned out really good. We have Obi-Wan talking with an officer as well as Commander Cody, and then we have his starfighter in the background with his droid, and then we have a bit of a clone gunner or a maintenance clone just, working, repairing the ship and getting ready to refuel it so Obi-Wan can depart and go on another mission. I think this turned out pretty good, and I'm a pretty big fan of how this turned out, but I would like to revisit this on a larger scale and try it again without any limitations because I think it would be really cool to build the interior of a Venator. Overall, I think this one turned out pretty good, and I'm excited to move on to the $1,000 clone base. It's finally time to tackle the $1,000 clone base. I have a lot of stuff that I want to get done here. I'm starting off by building the foundation for the clone base itself and working on doing the tiling for the floor. After I finish up the tiling for the floor, I move to beefing up the walls. I'm going to make them too thick so they can support the roof better. And to get some different variety in just the coloring of the walls, I'm going to be doing dark gray as well as the light bluish gray. Once I finished building them up, I started working on the doorway, getting a nice shape that I'm actually pretty happy with, and then building up the rest of the walls, continuing the pattern so it looks good and can hold up and not just be the same boring color. I do wish that I was able to make these look a little bit more detailed, but I'll work on that later on. I put on the roof, which has a small little bit of a tan line, so I have to cover that up so it doesn't look odd from the front. So I'm building up the foundation for the top to hold this in place as well as covering up that tan line. I think that turned out pretty good, and now I'm moving to build the back side where I am going to have a little bit of a tank sitting to come into this battle a little bit later on. Now that that's done, it is time to move to my least favorite part about mock building, and that is going to be doing the foliage and all of the flooring outside, putting down all of the different plates and tiles. This is always a very, very tedious task, and it takes so long, but I do try and make it as fun as I can to make it not just a boring kind of nougat floor. I'm going to be making different colors and some different patterns in the flooring as I am building Felucia here, so it does have that boring floor, but we'll be able to cover it up with some cool colorful foliage later on. I'm having these different streaks and circles in the ground, and I think it turned out pretty good, and now I can move into putting all of the different foliage up. I'm going with these orange spires as well as these medium azure spires and building up some different stuff, and now it's time to move into the minifigures. I have Ayla Secura taking on Count Dooku, and I'm just going to start throwing clone troopers everywhere through here just to fill it up and max out our budget here, as each clone trooper is about $10 to $12. And once all the clones are set in place, I'm going to start bringing in all of the different droids. I'm going to have a nice mix of super battle droids, B1 battle droids, as well as some commandos and even a tactical droid thrown in, and I think it turned out really good. And now our clone base is done. The clones have set up a small outpost out in Felucia, and Count Dooku has come to attack with his droid army to stop them from mining the precious resources that lay beneath the surface. Commander Bly and Aayla Secura have met them alongside the rest of the 327th Star Corps to take them on and stop them from taking down the clone base. Aayla Secura engages Count Dooku in a duel. However, there's a tactical droid leading the droids from behind, making it very challenging to take them down. A very hard task as they come in hiding in all of the different foliage. As we move to the inside of this clone base, which is full of a bunch of clone troopers, a weapons rack, and all of the different computers they need to operate this mining operation, as well as to predict and call in missile strikes to take down the droids. Aayla Secura and Count Dooku continue their battle, and we'll have to see who is able to come out on top of this fight. Will it be the clones or will it be the droids? Overall, I think this base turned out pretty good, and I had a lot of fun building this one. And we have come a long way from our $1 clone base to our $1,000 clone base. In all honesty, this was a lot harder than I thought it was going to be. When you think of $1,000, you think that the clone base is going to be massive and you're going to be able to do whatever you want and not really have to worry about the price point. But $1,000, crazy enough, doesn't really get you too far in today's day and age when it comes to the prices of Lego. But I was still able to make something that I was proud of. Something that took up a lot of the budget that I wasn't expecting were the different plants for Felucia. I couldn't even do the other side just because of how expensive some of these pieces are to build the different plants, but I did have a lot of fun building this and troubleshooting. I thought this was a very fun video to make, so if you want to see some more videos like this in the future, make sure to leave a like and subscribe to this channel. But I'll give you the quick run through of this mock coming on to the planet of Felucia. I just think Felucia is a very cool planet, and it is something that I want to do a very large scale mock of in the future, so I figured I would give it a little bit of a shot here just to, get a feel for it. Coming over, I think I might have gone a little bit overboard with the minifigures, but I do think that it is kind of fun to throw them all in here. Some people say it takes away from the mock, and I do agree in some aspects, but it just looks very cool to have a bunch of clones running into a bunch of droids. And then we have Aayla Secura as well as Count Dooku kind of having a duel in the middle of this. And then we even have the AAT with a nice little tactical droid in there leading this battle, second in command to Dooku. I do wish one of my biggest things is if I was able to include some more of these different foliages. I think they look really cool with the colors they pop, especially when they're on this very boring kind of tan flooring, which I was able to make look a bit interesting with the different kind of patterns with the different medium nougat details. It makes this a lot more dynamic. It makes it look a bit better for the outside area, and I think the battle turned out pretty good. And now it's time to move into the clone base itself, which did kind of take a backseat for this. I wanted to focus more on the battle, but I still think it turned out pretty good. The outside, there's not too much going on. I didn't want to clutter the roof either because I think it looks good when it is kind of just plain. To the right, there's a small area with a little bit of a tank sitting back there waiting to be brought out and used in this fight. And then to the entrance, I think I got a pretty good shape. And now we can move over to the interior of this base. Now, I actually used a pretty odd technique for the roof here. I mean, I don't really know if you could consider it a technique, but I used the base plate from the previous clone base as the roof because I didn't feel like building another whole roof. So this is the connection here. It doesn't connect too well, and on the sides there is that little bit of tan. That's why I had to cover it up on the front, but it works really good. It's very easy to put on remove, and I think it looks pretty good. Coming into the inside of the clone base, I didn't have too much room, space, or budget to work with here because I used pretty much all of that on the outside, but I think I managed to make it look pretty good. Starting off in this corner, we have a bit of a speeder with this clone running to get on it to go and help his brothers out on the battlefield. We have some storage back here as well with another clone kind of going through checking what they've got. Then you have the entrance, which looks probably better from the front than it does from the inside, but I still think that it does look pretty cool. I like the different archway. And then there is a weapons rack in the right corner with some clones going to get their stuff. And then lastly, we have some computers on the far right side with some of the gunners kind of working out what they want to do and what the plan for this battle is going to be. But overall, I think this clone base turned out pretty good. I think it is definitely better than our $1 clone base from the start of this video, and I think that this went a lot better than I was expecting, but I would love to try this again, maybe with some different budgets, maybe bigger budgets, smaller budgets, or instead of with clone bases, maybe with a droid base or something different like that. So if there's any videos like that that you would want to see me make in the future, make sure to let me know down below in the comments, as well as leaving a like on this video and subscribing to the channel to stay up to date for when I do put those videos out. Thank you all so much for watching. I hope you all enjoyed. Stay safe. Drew signing out.